Pardon self, my friends. Thank you for stepping into the File Player Land. As always, I'm your File Player, trying to make sure that my Wi-Fi situation is not shaky. And you'll have to forgive me that the people across the canal are lowering the boat. Or they're fucking with a boat. I don't know. But yeah, I wanted to do this video regarding something I saw yesterday, and it was Jon Stewart. He's an actor. I mean, he in his past life, a comedian, and he was also like in some movies, like I forgot the movie he was in, an Adam Sandler movie. But he's been off of, like, I know he had a show called The Daily Show, like for many years. And he's been off TV. I think he like mentioned the fact that he got off of syndicated TV, like in earnest, because of what he saw happening with entertainment news, like late night evening shows, like were getting too politicized. If I remember correctly, I mean, I may be wrong on that, but I remember hearing a mention of the fact that he was getting off of live TV or syndicated TV in part due to that. And that's kind of like how it played in the aftermath of maybe the ending of his time in the Daily Show till even recently. Like all these like late night comedy shows are largely politically charged. All of them are like liberal, like and it just became unfunny. Like a lot of comedians became unfunny in the last like decade, but they became like watching Stones in the last like 4 years, like during the last president's reign, if you will. It just got way too politicized. Like Trevor Noah is not funny to begin with. I can't stand Trevor Noah. And this is not me judging him off of his whack ass show, which I don't watch. I saw Trevor Noah in a comedy special that made him famous. He was unfunny then. He's extremely unfunny now. I mean, I don't even want to speak on the whole propping up these light skinned cats, like as voices of authority. But I think he came into that wave of along with other foreign-born light-skinned cats that are now the voices of authority for like the American Black community, the American minority community. But I could go on and on about that, like, and I won't on this video. But damn, I keep getting loading shit on my phone. Yeah, I'm just a little worried. I keep seeing a loading indication on my video. Give me 1 second. I just want to make sure that this isn't like an active. Oh no, it's not an active issue. But so anyways, Jon Stewart, I think he had a relationship, as far as friendly relationship, with Stephen Colbert in the past. And give me 1 second. I just got to make sure my video is not funky. Sorry, guys. But they did have like a working or friendly relationship in the past. Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart. So it was a little bit surprising to see Colbert as a guest on to see Jon Stewart as a guest on the Colbert show, which is like a late night talk show with a comedic tinge, if you will. Um, but he basically started dropping bombs on the Wuhan lab like leak theory, which the media is pretty much silent to. I mean, they are giving a little bit of headway and saying that there may be some validity to the virus emanating or originating from this Wuhan lab in China. For some reason, this was something that was 1 month ago uh, a reason to get your channel like kiboshed or you to be censored, and now all of a sudden it's coming around to being something that's now acceptable, and it may be validated and become the truth in a year or two. So I mean, every time that the liberal left, this is just a side observation, has taken a strong stance on something, it seems like the opposite becomes true. Um a lot of these trust the science um stalwarts like didn't really want to go into survivability of these things, and I don't know, they just made it like a lot, they just put themselves in a corner in which they made it seem like a lot of the things that happened last year were their doctrine, and now when a lot of the people that were telling them their doctrine have been coming out as wrong, i.e. the doctor who was overseeing this whole virus thing, wrong pretty much every month. um so now all of a sudden, like, the doctrine that was being pushed, or like the doctrine that people were looking at me sideways or you sideways for not 100% believing, changing your life because of it, now they look wrong, but they don't really have to face the brunt of that, if you will. And it's not that I'm looking for a big aha moment from Colbert or a Trevor Noah or um, Chris Cuomo or anybody on CNN, Zeitler, whatever his name is, that creep. But it's just that, like, with the liberal left, like, having like dominant control over like the media, including Fox. Um, Fox is controlled by the liberal left. You can't convince me otherwise. Like, Fox is fake opposition. Um, but with these people, pushing their agendas like unchecked, essentially, because like now they have the ability to widely censor people. It was refreshing, like, to have like unexpected moment like that from A-list, B-list celebrity in Jon Stewart. But he basically said something to the effect of, like, this disease was, it was a corona, or named corona, from Wuhan, and like that there was actually a lab in Wuhan with the name corona um, that was studying this disease, and like that people like completely glossed over the fact that maybe this did emanate from a lab, as was suggested by the man in charge a couple months ago. Um, and people were looking at you like you were some sort of bigot, you know, um, like, for suggesting that, or you were anti-science. I remember there was a channel here specifically that I don't know if I was on his channel, but that they were talking about this subject, and he said, "Oh, well, you like," and he was like kind of like pushing the vaccine thing, like, and this is not like, this is a black boxing channel, so it's not like some liberal pansy, if you will. But his contention was that science had pretty much um discovered that this came from a wet market in Wuhan, and since these things can mutate naturally and whatnot, that it's all the reason to trust science, because science got us to the point where we did find out that it emanated from a wet market in Wuhan. Well, turns out that that might be fugazi. That this probably did come from a lab. So I mean, like now, you know, the said person like deviate his position as far as not really trusting science, because you're not really like trusting science in these instances. You're trusting like a small tinge of science, which I mean is directly cut up and catered like to give to you. But more of that, you're trusting the media, which is not controlled by nobody that looks like you and me. You know, and it really stings me in the core, like when Spanish and black people try to cap for these causes. Like I mean, like all of a sudden, like you're um all the way conspiratorial of all the bad that's been done to you in the world. Meanwhile, some of these same people that look exactly the same as the people that did bad to you in 1492 and 1607 and the 1800s, all of a sudden these same people are telling you that trust us, and we look at some of them with a level of suspicion, and then some of them like just because they say the right thing here and there and make us feel like inside, um, you have to trust them, and you have to um, treat what they say as if it were the fucking Bible. What anybody opposes them says as if they're fucking demons. And I know some of you who may have like a similar stance to like what mine's is, of being a little bit skeptical like with these things, and um that you may have been battered by family, like when you went to their house this summer, like, or like you may have been grilled on whether you got something before entering somebody's house like that you haven't seen in a while. you know um it hasn't happened to me all the way like that, like, and a lot of people knew where I stood with all this. I didn't deviate. I'm not gonna lie to people either, and just so I can make them feel good on the inside. And because pretty soon I think I'm gonna start having to treat people differently, like which did sign up for certain Jabberwockies. You know what I'm saying? Like we may get to that point, like in the future. And it's not like the media is gonna tell us. They're gonna tell us like when it's too late, or they may tell us that it's a deviation of something that you should get another like shot for, or and then you can't really question that either. Like we got to get out of the position of of being really, really, really pissed off that anything in this world gets suppressed. Like the biggest gift that God gave you is the ability to disseminate information, and any information that comes in, I mean, like whether good or bad, you have the ability to disseminate it. You know, it can't be one source of information, because that's more dangerous than being given bad information. Because if that one source of information, which major media, I mean, is that one source of information which is controlled by a few people that all say the same shit to you day after day. What if they're wrong? Because they have been wrong in the last like year, countless times. But they don't have to walk it back. They don't get grilled by anybody. There's no reporters that are really coming out of left field and saying well, like I was adamantly opposed to the way my network is, and like you people got to wake up because we're all being lied to. You don't get any of that stuff. I mean, you may get a trickle here and there, like from a whistleblower at Project Veritas, which I think James O'Keefe and the people at Project Veritas do fantastic work. But you may get an occasional whistleblower in a small publication like Project Veritas, which also gets banned from Twitter. Project Veritas, they've taken Twitter to court. They've taken the Wall Street Journal to court, the New York Times, and I commend them for that. But they're a small fish. Some asshole could be like, oh well, he's one of those kind of people that listen to Project Veritas. Like, what's Project Veritas? Oh, it's a bunch of Trump supporting stuff, and like you ain't gonna listen to it. That's it. It's all it took. And then they're not even like that. I actually I have a story about that. Like I've been a avid reader of in the past. Like I stopped reading those books probably like in the last one I read was probably like 2011. But I used to like this author called Robert Anton Wilson, and I was on a Facebook group for people who are fans of that author who has since deceased. But the author is like a bunch of trippy ass shit, like fucking to do with like space migration, with effects of drugs on like your brain, um, just really, really, really far out like stuff that would probably align with like liberal thinking, if you will, which I'm cool with. Like I don't have problems with people that have liberal thinking. I have a problem with the far left uh people that are in charge of like liberal thinking today. Those are my enemies. But anyhow, while on that page, because I mentioned James O'Keefe and Project Veritas, somehow some fucking freak um may have looked into my regular profile and was a that I liked Project Veritas, and he's like, "Oh well, you're one of those people that likes Project Veritas." Like, so what? You know, listen to whatever the fuck you want. Like, makes no difference. I mean, like, am I a cultist of some sort, or like, you know, do I revert back to saying some shit about Project Veritas at every step of the way? Like, no. I mean, like, I think a lot of people that adopted liberal thinking, especially in this last year, um, they're firmly entrenched in the cult, and they like, regurgitate cult speak, liberal cult speak, if you will. But I'm not here crying that they do that. Like it just is what it is. They just got fooled into it, and I'll be here to laugh like when they wake up from it. But it's a crazy time we're living in. I hope like some of you are peeping game as to what's happening in the world and like what's happening within the media. You know, the the ability to have a voice of dissent is pretty much zero. You have zero opportunity to be a voice of dissent in a time like this. When a couple months ago, like in January, a lot of people were ditching Twitter and like to go on sites like Parlor and Odyssey, and I think with the case of Parlor, like they were on a, which I don't know shit about computers. They were on an Amazon server, and like Amazon pretty much pulled the plug on Parlor. Like, so somebody who may be listening to this may be an asshole and say, well, that's good. You play by their rules, like, but you could say pretty much any extreme point that's a liberal tinge, like with the Pride Parade. You could say, like, we're going to start getting to conversation soon where they say, like, well, people who love kids can only love kids. Like, people like me, like, only love women. Like, there's no space for men in my life. Um, there's gonna be people soon that say like, well, people that love kids have the right to love those kids, and that's, you can't like stop love, and like in some creepy way, like maybe this kid loves him back, and like that's what we're gonna get to soon. Like it's already happened, in small tinges as far as like over sexualizing these kids, like with the shitty music, um everything that's been catered, like as far as this like pride stuff that's been directly aimed at kids, which I don't get like one bit. Like nothing against the gay community, I've been hard on them in the past, but I mean, like, do you really have to like, was that like a epidemic in recent times where kids didn't know how to react like to a dude wearing 19 pounds of makeup and a dress? I mean, like, was that really, really, really a big problem recently? Do you see that many like cross dressers like in your day-to-day life. I haven't seen one in 3 months, and I go to New York essentially every day. Um, you know, but again, like to throw stuff like that down kids' throats, that's completely fine. Throw a bunch of fake science out there and like kind of like make threats as to people who don't subscribe to the fake science or are like subhuman. That's okay. Like but this stuff doesn't get checked. And I mean, like, honestly, like, and this is like for more of my um minority community viewers, because we ain't minor in anything. Like, a lot of times when we cap for these people, like, it just does us doubly bad. Like, I may have my conservative views, but like, you got to understand where my conservative views emanate from, because I'm not conservative all the way through like that. Like, I don't fucking go to church or like, I'm more profane than anybody on here. I curse all the time in front of kids and everything. What else? I think that all drugs should be legal. I think I just don't like to liberty to be infringed upon in any sort of way if it's so long as you're not hurting others and not emotionally hurting others, like hurting others. But when you look at like the last president, or why I wanted him to win, because I didn't vote for him the first time around. Because I took a lot of flack from people, like, and some of them are starting to come around. But I took a lot of flack from lazy people, if you will, people that make lazy assumptions. In the sense of, sorry, I'm just making sure my stream is running. In the sense of maybe thinking that like that I had converted from one day to the next into thinking that was harmful, like to people that look like me. Not the case. I've never been that way. Like, in fact, I've contended with a bunch of sellouts and a bunch of toms my whole life, and I call them out whenever I could. I've been at the receiving end of the sellout community my whole life. The toms, the Rickies, or the Ricky Richards, as they call them, Spanish guys that try to act like they're blanquitos. But somebody who I followed his work was a lawyer from, and you may know him, named Robert, named Ultimatics. And shout out to my man FOG, who actually had Ultimatics on his radio show. FOG is one of my peeps, born Zig a Zig, from Connecticut, my man's. But he had Ultimatics on his show when I was living in Jersey City, so I was probably like 2013, 2014. But I heard it afterwards. I heard it like in 2015, but I don't know how old the interview was at that point. But Ultimatics is had a website called Reinstate Automatics, because Automatics was disbarred by the state of New York from practicing law, even though Automatics was probably the finest lawyer in this country during his time. He was disbarred for decades for something that wasn't even like major. But when Automatics had that website, Reinstate Automatics, a lot of times he would go on these like these written diatribes, like or these essays, if you will. And one of the things he always proposed was threatening the New York State, or threatening like for like the black and Spanish vote, mostly the black vote in New York City, to all go to the right, like to all vote Republican one year, and that would bring the Democratic establishment to his knees around the country, like because losing New York would be symbolic of the Democrats losing their main stronghold. Um, Now I'm pretty sure that along the way, like when Ultimatus was suggesting this in the '90s and the early 2000s, that a couple of Toms were probably telling him like, well, that's the best of what we got, like or that the you can't go like give it up to these Republicans, like nobody's saying give it up to anybody. These are one-time transactions that happen. You don't vote every year; you vote every 4 years. And when you don't get shit from your political party in New York, especially New York, minorities are shitted on at every turn, worse than anywhere in the whole country. Give me New Orleans, give me Atlanta, give me California. Maybe California is right there with us, but for you looking at a case of where minorities are shitting on in this country, New York's number one, bar none. If yuppies want to move into any neighborhood that's largely minority, you can pretty much assure that the cops are going to make your life impossible while you live in that community as yuppies live there. You could pretty much assure that you can't move from where you're living because you ain't going to be finding a comparable apartment like if you're renting. You're talking about rents going from 900 to 3,000 in a span of a year. So you're pretty much either stuck in position or getting escorted out by like the cops or what have you in New York. I've seen this everywhere. I've seen this in Harlem. A lot of Harlem Toms were cheering for these yuppie saviors when they were coming in, and little did they know that those yuppies were coming in to get them out of there. Um, in a nice way, of course. Um, and this doesn't happen by rates raising, and in the unfortunate event that you got to move. It also happens like in the case of Harlem, like they only had one supermarket, which is Pathmark on 122nd. I mean 125th and Second Avenue, if I remember correctly. Once they took that Pathmark away, like which people were like fighting for, like to retain that Pathmark, but like were boycotting and like doing demonstrations. Little did they give a shit, like the powers that be, because they ended up moving that Pathmark out of there, and just making sure I don't have like. Actually, I'm gonna turn the camera off. Fuck this. I think that might be messing up my my joint. But those people did end up moving that Pathmark from that location, and they ended up just taking the Pathmark out of there completely. In addition to so now like if you were a regular hood person, like you're trying to do your food shopping. So now like if making sure my stream's on. Sorry, you're trying to do your food shopping at a Walgreens or some shit, or at CVS, where it's like impossible. You could do a bootleg food shop, but it's gonna cost you a bunch of money. You don't get the savings of like having a supermarket. Well, if you only have one supermarket in pretty much all of Southern Harlem, um, and then that gets taken out, to put in like living units for yuppies, then good luck, getting groceries. But not to front, like a lot of these people that like from Harlem were, because Harlem was like one of the first real gentrification jobs that I seen, like where you had the Clinton offices in Harlem, and you had Sharpton running full time, like trying to get a little bit of scratch money here and there. Um, but when it happened in Harlem, like where I saw it going, like because Harlem's a really really neighborhood. 25th is way than 113. Like these are like night and day. Like 145th is way different than fucking 139th. Like these are universes different. Like and they're streets away. But when it started happening in Harlem, in a big neighborhood like Harlem in Mass, like I did see it happening, And when I saw a bunch of idiots like that are so-called minorities cheering it on, I thought we had no hope. And this was in early 2000s when this happened. Little did I know that it would happen in every neighborhood in New York City, and we got what we're at now. And these same people like still vote like Democrat, and will knock your head off if you you know wear like a Trump hat in New York City or some shit. Like, oh, if you're stupid enough to wear a Trump hat, um, which I would never do, even though I did vote for him. But you know, but you think about it like as people of color, like we have no say so in how this the powers that be, especially when as it pertains to the media, um, we have no control that dissemination, like that the information that we do get. We have no control like to get at somebody's head, like when they lie to us. We're pretty much consumers. Now it's up to you. I mean, it's a personal choice whether you want to be a obliging, happy consumer or you want to be a suspicious consumer like me. Anyways, with that, I'm out. Let me turn on the camera for this last portion though. I hope like my shit wasn't fucking up throughout. But thanks for listening to me blab. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I probably won't go back on because I'm going out to dinner with my wife tonight, and fucking we're about to go on a nature trail. Like me acting like a yuppie. But with that, let me know what you guys think. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for stepping into the File Playland with me. Peace.